She looked like every school bus driver you'd ever seen. Silver hair in a practical ponytail, reading glasses hanging from a chain, a uniform that had seen 18 years of coffee spills and crayon marks. Martha Williams picked up the same 47 children every morning, knew their names, their stories, their fears about math tests, and excitement about birthday parties. To parents and teachers, she was simply the reliable woman who safely transported their most precious cargo twice a day. But when 5 armed men blocked Highway 15 and surrounded her bus full of children, they awakened something that had been sleeping behind her gentle smile for nearly 2 decades. What they discovered would remind everyone that the most dangerous people are often the ones who choose to appear harmless. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we begin this extraordinary tale of maternal fury and hidden strength, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. If you believe everyday heroes deserve recognition, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who protect from the shadows. Bus 47 pulled away from Riverside Elementary at 7:23 a.m., exactly on schedule, just as it had every school day for the past 18 years. Martha Williams checked her mirrors, signaled properly, and began the familiar route that would take her through 12 stops in suburban neighborhoods before reaching the highway stretch that connected to Memorial Middle School and Jefferson High School. At 64, Martha was a fixture in the Riverside School District. She had outlasted 3 superintendents, 5 principals, and dozens of younger drivers who couldn't handle the unique challenges of transporting children safely while managing behavior, maintaining schedules, and providing the kind of consistent, caring presence that made nervous parents trust strangers with their most precious responsibilities. Martha's bus was different from the others in ways that mattered to children but were invisible to adults. She kept a first aid kit that was better stocked than most school nurse offices. Her radio was tuned to emergency frequencies as well as dispatch. The small refrigerator behind her seat contained juice boxes for diabetic children and crackers for those who forgot breakfast. And her demeanor carried the kind of calm authority that made even the most challenging students behave without understanding why. This morning brought the usual collection of personalities that filled bus 47 twice daily. Emma Patterson, age 7, always sat in the front seat because loud noises made her anxious, and Martha's presence helped her feel safe. The Martinez twins, Miguel and Sofia, occupied the middle section with their characteristic energy and rapid-fire Spanish conversations that Martha understood perfectly but pretended not to follow. The back rows belonged to the high school students, Tyler Morrison, Jessica Chen, and Marcus Thompson, who maintained their teenage coolness but secretly appreciated Martha's non-judgmental acceptance of their complex adolescent dramas. To observe Martha Williams during her morning routine was to witness someone who had perfected the art of protective authority. She knew which children needed extra time to board, which required gentle reminders about seatbelts, and which responded best to humor rather than discipline. Her voice carried across the bus without strain, conveying information and instructions with the efficiency of someone who understood that clear communication prevented problems before they developed. But there were details about Martha Williams that weren't included in any personnel file or background check conducted by the Riverside School District. before she became bus driver 47, before she chose to spend her days protecting children during their most vulnerable transportation hours. Martha had been Colonel Martha Williams, United States Air Force Security Forces. For 22 years, she had commanded units responsible for protecting air bases, nuclear facilities, and classified installations from threats that ranged from terrorist attacks to sophisticated espionage operations. Her specialties had included tactical vehicle operations, emergency response coordination, and threat assessment in environments where failure meant catastrophic consequences. She had served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and classified locations where her responsibilities included convoy security through hostile territory and protection of high-value assets under combat conditions. The transition from military command to school bus driver had been deliberate and carefully planned. After retiring from the Air Force, Martha had struggled with civilian life that felt somehow insignificant compared to the life and death responsibilities she'd carried for over 2 decades. The constant awareness, the protective instincts, the tactical thinking, all seemed wasteful in a world where the greatest daily challenge was choosing between television channels. Then her daughter Sarah, a single mother working 2 jobs, had mentioned the challenges of finding reliable childcare and transportation for her son Michael. Martha had volunteered to help with school pickup, and during those drives had discovered something profound. Protecting children during their daily routines was exactly as important as protecting military installations from foreign threats. Different scale, same mission. She had applied for the school bus driver position with the same methodical preparation she'd used for military assignments. Commercial driver's license, background checks, training certifications, all completed with the efficiency of someone accustomed to bureaucratic requirements. The Riverside School District had been impressed by her maturity, reliability, and natural authority with children. What they didn't know was that Martha Williams was probably the most qualified transportation security specialist in the civilian sector, with 22 years of experience in protecting valuable cargo under hostile conditions. For 18 years, that background had remained hidden beneath layers of genuine warmth and nurturing care. Martha had successfully convinced herself that her military training was simply insurance she'd never need. Skills that belonged to a different life and would remain peacefully unused. She was about to discover how dramatically circumstances could change in the time it took to drive from one school to another. Highway 15 stretched between Riverside Elementary and the upper schools like a ribbon of asphalt through farmland that had somehow avoided suburban development. It was Martha's favorite part of the daily route. 10 minutes of peaceful driving where she could relax her vigilance slightly, letting the children chatter or doze while she enjoyed the open road and rural scenery. This Thursday morning in late October brought perfect weather for the drive. Clear skies, comfortable temperature, light traffic that would ensure they reached Memorial Middle School with time to spare before first period. Martha had just finished mediating a minor dispute between 2 fifth graders about Pokemon cards when she noticed something in her mirrors that activated instincts she hadn't used in 18 years. 2 vehicles were approaching from behind, moving faster than traffic patterns suggested and positioning themselves in a way that seemed less like normal highway behavior and more like tactical coordination. Martha's training automatically categorized the details. dark SUVs with tinted windows, occupants wearing clothing that suggested concealment rather than weather protection, speed and positioning that indicated intent rather than coincidence. Martha maintained her steady pace while mentally cataloging her resources and options. 47 children ranging in age from 6 to 17. One school bus with reinforced construction but limited maneuverability. Radio communication with district dispatch and emergency frequencies. Fuel tank 3/4 full. Distance to nearest population center approximately 4 miles. And 22 years of military experience in convoy security and threat response. The first SUV moved into the passing lane and began pacing the bus rather than overtaking, confirming Martha's assessment that this was intentional rather than random. She reached for her radio with movements that appeared casual but were actually positioning for emergency communication. District Dispatch, this is Bus 47, she said in her normal professional tone, requesting clarification of traffic conditions on Highway 15 eastbound. Bus 47 dispatch, no reported incidents on your route. Everything okay out there, Martha? Martha glanced in her mirrors again, noting that the second SUV had moved to the right lane and was also maintaining pace rather than passing. Classic flanking maneuver designed to limit her options for evasive action. Just checking, she replied. Thank you, dispatch. But she didn't release the radio. Instead, she switched to the emergency frequency and transmitted a coded message that would alert law enforcement to a potential situation without alarming the children. Highway 15 eastbound, mile marker 23, possible traffic enforcement needed. Emma Patterson, sitting in her usual front seat, looked up at Martha with the kind of intuitive awareness that anxious children develop. Mrs. Williams, is everything okay? Martha smiled at her with genuine warmth while calculating distances and response times. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just making sure we get to school safely, like always. But everything wasn't fine. The two SUVs had been joined by a third vehicle, a pickup truck that had appeared from a side road and was now blocking the highway ahead of them. Martha could see armed figures emerging from all three vehicles, spreading out in positions that suggested training and coordination. This wasn't random road rage or automobile theft. This was a planned operation targeting her bus specifically, with enough personnel and firepower to suggest that someone considered 47 children and one school bus driver to be valuable enough to justify serious criminal risk. Martha Williams, school bus driver, would have been terrified by the situation developing around Bus 47. But Colonel Martha Williams, Air Force Security Forces, recognized this as a tactical scenario she'd trained for extensively, with stakes that were admittedly higher than any military exercise. 47 children, her children, under her protection and depending on her judgment to bring them home safely. Some motherly instincts, once activated, were more dangerous than any military training. The pickup truck positioned itself across both lanes of Highway 15, forcing Martha to reduce speed while the two SUVs maintained their flanking positions. Martha could see armed figures, 5 men total, emerging from the vehicles with the kind of coordinated movement that suggested either military training or extensive criminal experience. Everyone stay seated and stay calm, Martha announced to her passengers, her voice carrying the kind of authority that made compliance automatic. We're going to have a brief delay, but everything is going to be fine. The children sensed the change in her tone immediately. Conversations stopped, heads turned toward windows, and the natural anxiety that came with unexpected situations began spreading through the bus. But Martha's presence, calm, controlled, absolutely confident, prevented panic from taking hold. Emma Patterson raised her small hand. "Mrs. Williams, what's happening?" "Some people have made a very poor decision," Martha replied, applying the bus brakes gradually while scanning for tactical options. "But they're about to learn that some poor decisions have serious consequences." The leader of the group, tall, heavily armed, moving with professional confidence, approached the bus door while his associates positioned themselves at strategic angles. Martha noted their deployment patterns, weapon types, and communication methods with the analytical calm of someone who had faced far more dangerous threats in environments far less favorable to survival. But she had never faced threats while responsible for 47 children. The man reached the bus door and gestured for Martha to open it. She complied, understanding that maintaining the appearance of cooperation would preserve her tactical options while gathering intelligence about their objectives and capabilities. "Morning, Grandma," the man said, stepping onto the bus with casual arrogance. "Beautiful day for a ride, isn't it?" Martha studied his face, noting details that would be useful for identification and threat assessment. Late 30s, professional bearing, equipment that suggested significant resources, and the kind of confidence that came from successful previous operations. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. "What we want is very simple," he replied, gesturing toward the children. "These kids represent significant value to certain parties, parents who will pay substantial amounts to ensure their safe return, school districts that will negotiate to avoid negative publicity, federal agencies that prioritize child safety above operational security." Martha processed this information with growing understanding. This wasn't random criminal opportunism. This was organized kidnapping designed to generate ransom payments from multiple sources while exploiting emotional vulnerabilities that made rational negotiation difficult. "You're making a mistake," Martha said evenly. The man laughed. "Lady, I've been planning this operation for 6 months. Best case scenario, we're looking at 7 figures in ransom payments. Worst case, we disappear with 47 hostages who guarantee safe passage anywhere we want to go." He looked around the bus with satisfaction. Perfect target selection, isolated location, limited response time, maximum emotional leverage. What mistake could I possibly be making? Martha glanced in her mirrors, confirming the positions of his associates while calculating response options. "You assumed I was just a school bus driver, aren't you?" For 18 years, Martha Williams had successfully hidden her military background beneath layers of genuine maternal care and educational dedication. She had convinced herself that those skills belonged to the past, that her new life was built around protection rather than violence, nurturing rather than combat. But some training never disappeared. It just waited patiently until circumstances made it necessary. "I'm someone who has spent 22 years learning how to protect valuable assets from people exactly like you," Martha said quietly. "And you just threatened 47 children under my protection." The man's expression shifted as he processed the change in her voice, her posture, her entire presence. "What the hell are you talking about?" Martha's answer came in the form of actions rather than words. Her right hand found the emergency brake, while her left activated the door controls, sealing the bus and activating lockdown protocols that would prevent external access. Her foot hit the accelerator with enough force to throw the standing man off balance, while her steering wheel turned hard left toward the gap between the pickup truck and the roadside ditch. Bus 47, weighing 13,000 pounds and carrying 47 passengers, became a tactical vehicle operated by someone who had successfully navigated convoy operations through hostile territory where stopping meant death. The man inside the bus tried to regain his footing, but Martha's elbow found his solar plexus with precision that belonged to someone trained in close-quarters combat. He folded around the impact, gasping for air, while Martha maintained control of the accelerating bus with movements that were smooth, controlled, and absolutely decisive. "Hold on, everyone," she called to her passengers. "This is going to be bumpy, but we're going home." What happened next would be studied by law enforcement tactical units as a textbook example of defensive driving under hostile conditions. Martha Williams, operating a 13,000-pound school bus loaded with 47 children, demonstrated exactly why Air Force Security Forces convoy training was considered among the most effective in the world. The bus's sudden acceleration caught the kidnappers off guard, disrupting their carefully planned positions and forcing them to react to Martha's initiative rather than implementing their own tactical objectives. The pickup truck blocking the highway was positioned for stationary targets, not for vehicles operated by someone who understood that momentum was often more effective than armor. Martha aimed for the narrow gap between the truck's rear bumper and the roadside drainage ditch, calculating angles and clearances with the same precision she'd used navigating military convoys through mountain passes under enemy fire. The bus scraped past the truck with inches to spare, metal screaming against metal, but maintaining forward motion toward open highway. Behind them, the two SUVs were scrambling to pursue, but Martha had gained crucial seconds while their drivers repositioned for chase rather than blockade. She used those seconds to key her radio for emergency broadcast while maintaining control of the bus through terrain that wasn't designed for vehicles of this size. "Mayday! Mayday! This is school bus 47 on Highway 15 eastbound," she transmitted. "Armed attack in progress. 47 children on board, requesting immediate law enforcement and medical response." The response was immediate and decisive. "Bus 47, this is State Police Dispatch. We have units responding to your location. What is your current status?" 5 armed subjects attempted kidnapping operation, Martha reported while checking her mirrors for pursuit vehicles. "Subjects are mobile and continuing to pursue. Children are secure but need medical evaluation for shock and minor injuries." Inside the bus, 47 children were experiencing the kind of terror and amazement that would mark them for life. The gentle, nurturing woman who had driven them safely to school for years had transformed into someone who moved and spoke with deadly efficiency while protecting them from threats they couldn't fully understand. Tyler Morrison, the 17-year-old who usually maintained teenage indifference to adult authority, found himself staring at Martha with something approaching awe. "Mrs. Williams, how are you doing this?" "Experience," Martha replied, taking the bus through a series of defensive maneuvers that kept their pursuers at a distance while maintaining communication with emergency responders. "Sometimes people have backgrounds they don't talk about." The first SUV had closed the gap and was attempting to force the bus off the road through aggressive positioning and proximity pressure. Martha responded with techniques that belonged in military training manuals rather than civilian driving courses, using the bus's weight and momentum to maintain control while preventing their attackers from achieving tactical advantage. "Mrs. Williams," Emma Patterson called from her front seat, "are we going to be okay?"